I just got back from vacation, and I thought I would chat about the results from my vacation, from the ketogenic plan that I put together. And I thought I would chat about just my personal update, where I am with keto right now. And I also thought we could chat about expectations. If you're just starting the ketogenic way of eating and living, I thought we could talk about some expectations there. And so starting off my vacation. So my last video was all about the keto vacation plan that I put together and the meals that we planned to eat. And I have to say, it went really well. So I have been keto for 2.5 years, and ever since turning keto, I have done a keto plan for vacation, and it has turned out really well. So you can watch that video if you want to get ideas. If you're heading out on vacation here soon, you can take a look at that. One thing I will say is that the fasting on the drive there and the fasting on the drive back has just been amazing. It's actually probably the best thing I can report in all of this, is just using fasting for that mental alertness while you're driving. So on the way there, I did 1 meal a day. I had coffee and cream and MCT oil and stuff while driving. And then when we got there, we had our 1 meal. We went to Five Guys, and I got a cheeseburger in a bowl with toppings, mushrooms, bacon, onions, stuff. And it was really good. I was very hungry for it. It went really well. I just had such good mental energy the whole drive there. And on the return home, I decided to fast the entire time. So at some point late morning, I think it was, or maybe it was even lunchtime, I ordered a large breve latte. So we went to a cafe, and I ordered that with an extra shot of espresso, and it was so good, and it was perfect. So anyway, I did that on the way home, felt great the entire time, fasted that day, and then, ended up eating then on Sunday in the morning. So that part went great. The food plan worked really well. I allow some carbohydrates for our kids. I have older kids. I can't just tell them exactly what to eat. I try to be a really good example of a healthy eating lifestyle, and they have to make their own choices. I do have a 13-year-old. That's my youngest, and so that's a little different. Everybody else is 18 or older. So what I would do is kind of make a keto meal that would work for Mike and I, and then I would add in they wanted some carbohydrates, so I would add in a little bit, still not much. I only go so far with that. But that worked really well. Ordering from Walmart and doing the pickup plan worked really well. I will say that the Walmart near the Smoky Mountains, near Gatlinburg, is crazy. So I did get a number of substitutions. I was not able to eat as healthy as I would like, to eat my normal. But, for a week of vacation, we did the best we could. And the substitutions weren't so bad that we really couldn't follow the plan. So we did that, and all of those meals turned out really well. The only substitution we had is I did not do the chicken salad stuffed cucumber boats, primarily because we were doing hiking and these other activities that I didn't have enough time to cook the chicken and cool it all the way down in the refrigerator and then turn it into a salad. So we ended up just using some of those ingredients. I used a little bit of ranch seasoning that was homemade and some mayonnaise, and that's how I dressed and marinated the chicken breast, and then we grilled that, and it was very, very tasty. And we just had the sliced cucumbers, and we had leftover Caesar dressing, leftover ranch dressing, and so we just dipped everything in that, and everybody was pretty happy. So that was the only substitution we had. Personally, I had 2 little fails, I guess you could call them, or just ate things I wasn't planning to. One was I was planning to just have potato chips and chip dip. That's my favorite little savory snack. That's not keto. And I also ended up having some tortilla chips and salsa too. I do like those. I just don't like them as much as potato chips. But we did a lot of work, and I was extra hungry. I hadn't really, anticipated that or thought about that. So I did have some more carbohydrates than I was planning. I also had, after everybody got their garlic bread, when we had the meatball subs, there was a piece left over, and I had that piece. It was a pretty small piece, but I did have that. So those were two things I did that were not really a part of my plan. The other thing I will say is that the Smoky Mountains were awesome. And, you know, only about 10% of the people in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, walked around with masks on or hiked with masks on. And I, quite frankly, was relieved. I really didn't want to wear a mask, especially outside. And so we did have to wear one into restaurants, but once we were seated at tables, we were not required to at that point, and we took them off. So, you know, as far as that goes, it was nice to have a breather and just see everybody's faces, to see people's smiles, to hear people. It was really nice to be able to see that, to be honest. Then the other thing I want to say is I did weigh myself before the trip. I always like to, I only put so much stock in the scale. The scale is helpful. It's a tool, but it is definitely not the end all be all. But I did weigh myself before we left, and I weighed 141.4. And when we got back, so on Sunday morning, I weighed myself again, and I weighed that exact same number. That seems to be a number that I see frequently, that I tend to think of it as sort of a set point. My body seems to kind of be hitting that number a lot when I weigh myself. The other thing I will say is that, so this week I think I mentioned in my planning video to be kind of keto carnivore, and that's what we've been doing so far this week. I had some really awesome bone broth soups in my freezer, so those will have a few veggies in it and stuff. But the other meals that I am making, we have a lot of meat in our freezer, so to have an easy week and sort of recuperate, we're trying to be really extra low in carbohydrates this week. So the other thing I wanted to share is just a little bit about my personal keto update. So as I said, I've been doing keto and intermittent fasting for 2.5 years. I became a certified keto coach not long ago through Dr. Berg's program. And I did that because of the amazing success that I have found in this way of eating. So I really like to share my success. I have been studying health for over 17 years because my first child was quite sick. And I related it to food. I related it to diet. And so I have been trying to eat a whole foods, more ancestral type diet for a lot of years. And more recently, I was doing kind of a paleo version of an ancestral diet. And so, avoiding grains and taking other things out, and which brings you down a little bit in carbohydrates, certainly way down from the standard American diet, which is very high in carbohydrates. So anyway, I just wanted to share, I started this whole thing, I weighed 160 pounds. Actually, I never saw that number. The last number I saw was 158, but I got to a point near my 50th birthday where, and I'm 53 now, I just turned 53 in April, so I started this right around the age of 50, and I was becoming very terrified about my health. I was feeling so lethargic, so low energy. My hearing was dissipated, my sight was dissipated. There were other things that I was noticing as well that I've shared in other videos, but I was very, very concerned that I was about to receive a diagnosis of some sort. And so I found out about keto, I jumped on. Within 2 weeks, I noticed some pretty substantial stuff. And I think partly because of the fact that I had already been eating healthy versions of food, but I was not concerned about carbohydrate consumption. And so our culture is very high in carbohydrates. And so I ate a lot of carbohydrates. And but I think because I was eating a lot of whole foods and some very good stuff, my body responded very quickly to the ketogenic way of eating. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a goal weight. Not that I think weight is the end all be all, but when I felt my best, and for a lot of years, I weighed between 135 and 140. And so I thought, well, let's just go with the goal. This is going really well. Let's be aggressive and go for 135. So I never saw that weight. But this January, so I saw my lowest weight, which was 135.8. So that's pretty darn close. And I was pretty excited about that. And that was actually right after Christmas. I decided to, for the sake of ease and recuperating from Christmas, to do a carnivore week right after Christmas. And when I weighed myself after that carnivore week, I weighed 135.8. And so that really wasn't all that long ago. And now the number I keep seeing is 141.4. I keep seeing this same number. So whereas once I hit that 135.8, the other number that I saw a lot was 137.8. So there's been an upward movement in my weight, not a ton, it's less than 5 pounds. So I've been thinking about, well, what might explain that? Well, we've had COVID-19, which I tried really hard not to be stressed out about, but it's been sort of an upsetting several months. Just in the news media, and trying to figure that all out. And I feel like there's been a lot of hanky-panky with the whole thing. And that was rather upsetting. I found that to be kind of stressful. So, that played into maybe this uptick in weight, but also this has been sort of a menopausal year for me. So my last regular cycle was in July of 2019. So I'm coming up on almost a year. I've had 2 cycles in this will last, 11 months, 10 months. The first one was really, really light, and the second one seemed like a fairly normal one, and it was after a longer fast. So both of them were related to longer fast, but the second one was definitely a much longer fast, so I think it was a 4-day fast. So anyway, I have that issue. I have this menopause thing going on, where I'm about to be in menopause, and so I think that definitely has something to do with it. My hormones are shifting. Estrogen is doing some interesting things. I'm noticing more weight around my midsection. It's just hanging there differently. So maybe the estrogen in my fat is doing things there in that area. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so I've been thinking, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to think, you're in menopause, I should just expect to gain weight, and just to be heavier. And a part of me really wants to reject that idea and think, no, I can be healthy in menopause in my later years. I can be healthy and I can have a decent weight in my later years. And so, for right now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that I upped my meat consumption. One thing with aging is that the concern can be muscle mass, losing bone mass. These two things really can work against your health if these happen. So this whole year, ever since I did the week of carnivore and found it to be very successful, I have upped my meat intake, my protein intake. And it's because as you age, I think there is a concern with muscle mass and bone density, and I want to start thinking about that and acting in a certain way towards that. So I've been more, I can't say I've been trying for a certain amount of protein, but just having the mindset that I need a little more. And so, that could be upping my muscle mass or my bone density. And those two things weigh more than fat. So that's another, aspect of the whole thing. But I'm thinking, what, for right now, I don't want to just accept weight gain. I just don't want to do it. So I want to be, I set a new goal of just definitely being under 140. So that's what I'm going for. I have seen 144 over the last couple of months too. So 141 is 0.4 is a number I keep seeing. But I'm checking that after my weekly longer fast. So if I were getting on the scale, I think I would be seeing 144, 145. So that's my new goal. I want to be under 140, and I think that I would feel very good at that place. So that's kind of my new goal. Now, the last thing I wanted to just chat about is expectations. What can you expect if you start a ketogenic lifestyle? Is there a good reason to expect results from this way of eating? And the answer is yes. The ketogenic way of eating works. I have been experiencing this success for 2.5 years. Really all of the major things that happened within the first 6 months. I embraced fasting at the same time. I think keto and fasting work together. You can use one a little more than the other, but they work together. I would do some of both for sure. So I did both pretty intensely, and within 6 months, I had really pretty much achieved the results. And I think it was at my 1-year anniversary is when I did my benefits. I started doing the benefits videos. So I have maintained this whole time, and I'm super excited to keep doing this. I don't ever want to go back to feeling low energy, lethargic. My eyes are working better. My hearing is better. My skin is better. Just everything is better. My mood is better. So there is no way I can go back. There's no way I can go back. I don't plan on doing that. Now, I do hear some people say that they don't feel like it's working for them. And I know this is real. This is absolutely real. This really does happen. So why would that be? Well, I thought of a number of things. Number one, these folks might not actually be eating from the ketogenic food list. And, if you're not eating the low carb vegetables and meat and the higher fat dairy and nuts, and you're getting into other areas where there are more carbohydrates or lower quality food, you're not going to get the results. So it's really important to eat from the keto food list. And I'll put that back in the notes of this video again, just so you can take another look at that. The other thing is that people have too many keto snacks and too many desserts. So these things could be fairly low in carbohydrates, but if you're having too many of them, then it's going to impede progress. And these are mainly the nuts and cheese. These two things, first of all, some people react to them, these two items. So you kind of want to be paying attention to how your body, whether it likes nuts and cheese. So the other thing is that they are high in fat, so and they do have some carbohydrates. So you can be getting up into a higher carbohydrate level, pretty quickly. The other thing is that people sometimes don't fast between the meals. This is going to make a big difference. The basic keto, plan is having 12 hours of an eating window and 12 hours without any eating at all. And during the 12 hours of eating, if you start out with the 3 meals, which is typical, you don't eat in between those meals. You get enough at those meals that you can make it to the next meal. When you're not making it, you probably need more fat to get through to the next meal. So this is really important. If you're snacking, even keto snacks, in between meals, that's going to impede your progress. So the clean fasting is very important, both in the big 12-hour fast or longer and in the fasting in between the meals. So another thing that can impede progress or make someone feel like the keto lifestyle is not working for me is when you have a pre-existing condition. So if you've been told you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic or you have high blood pressure or you have kidney issues or you have fatty liver disease, these things are going to take a while to recover from. Or if you've had cancer, I'm trying to think of what else, maybe Lyme disease. If you've had some really, things where you've achieved a diagnosis, and let me tell you, sometimes the diagnosis really should have come along a lot sooner. So you could have been barely treading water for a long time, health-wise. And then finally you get the diagnosis. Well, you really needed that 10 years ago. So anyway, if you have a diagnosis, and then if you would happen to add obesity, which is another diagnosis, that's quite common. So you have 2 diagnoses, and maybe one of them is obesity. There's going to be a lot of work to do. It's going to take time. Now, you can speed up that time a little bit by being, using carnivore, weeding carnivore into a ketogenic way of eating as a tool. And you could also speed up results a little bit with a little bit more fasting, especially, I think, doing a longer fast every week or going back to, as I've said in other videos, 2 meals in a day, or maybe some days with just 1 meal in a day. So that extra fasting and not consuming calories and carbohydrates during that fasting window can really be quite helpful. So there's that. Now, some other things that still could impede progress. There are so many variables. So someone who is dealing with a lot of stress, like maybe a very poor relationship, or, like a marriage that's really hard, or a friendship that's really suffered recently, some kind of blow to it, or a stressful job, or maybe another family's got really poor health, and that's been a stressor, a worry, a concern. Then mental health issues. You know, if you're dealing with depression or anxiety, I deal with some anxiety. When I started keto, I didn't realize I had any depression, but actually I do. And so when I started keto, this like gray cloud lifted from my life, and it has not been back. And praise God for that. I really didn't think of myself as being depressed. So, you know, and now I still deal a little bit with anxiety, and this is something that's in my family, kind of have a family history of that. And so, you know, I'm working on that, and it has improved for sure. So that can be something that can hold you back. And sleep issues too. Our healing, so much regeneration takes place during sleep. So good sleep, high quality sleep is really, really important. So that can be another variable that's going to impact results. So those are just some things that to consider, some things to work on if you feel like keto or intermittent fasting is not working for you. These are just some things to consider. I do want to mention that none of what I'm saying here is medical advice, you know, and I am sharing from my personal experience. I'm sharing from my coaching experience, what I have discovered in the ketogenic lifestyle. I'm sharing from all of the research I do. You know, most people don't like to listen to doctors talk about the ketogenic lifestyle or healing even, but I happen to love it. So that's one of the reasons why I started this channel, is because to cull that down and to share it. You know, I listen to family physicians, I listen to cardiologists, I listen to internal medicine doctors, I listen to dietitians, a wide variety of folks who are using keto and intermittent fasting in their clinic, in a clinical way, and the results that they're experiencing. And the testimonies are just amazing. And I too have experienced it. And I just feel like, wow, people could live way better lives with this information. So that's why I get on here and I share it. So I hope that you are working in a ketogenic realm in your life, that you're using keto, that you're using intermittent fasting. If you have any questions, any points of discussion that you would like to hear talked about, I am happy to do that. And so I just wanted to hop on here and kind of give an update post-vacation, where I am with keto and intermittent fasting right now. And so just wanted to share that. So I hope you are well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!